Rome held its breath. The air, usually thick with the scent of summer jasmine and the hum of a million lives, felt thin. It was charged with an unspoken tension. The ancient stones of the city seemed to be listening. In the cafes near St. Peter's Square, whispers were traded like currency, but they were whispers of confusion, not of knowledge. Something was moving within the high walls of the Vatican. The Swiss guards stood at their posts, their faces impassive, yet their eyes betrayed a heightened alertness. They were guardians of a secret, a momentous decision held in the heart of one man. The silence from the apostolic palace was not the peaceful quiet of contemplation. It was the heavy, expectant silence that precedes a great pronouncement. For days, the usual flurry of activity had ceased. Curial officials moved through the corridors with a gravity that went beyond their usual solemnity. They knew only that the Holy Father, Leo XIV, had been in seclusion, locked in prayer and deep thought. He was wrestling with a matter of profound consequence, a decision that would send tremors through the very foundations of the Church. Even the sky over the eternal city seemed to reflect the mood. The city felt like a stage, perfectly set, waiting for the principal actor to step into the light. The world watched, sensing that the old order was about to be shaken. A change was coming. This was a city accustomed to drama, to the rise and fall of empires and pontiffs. Yet this felt different. It concerned the soul of the institution itself. The quiet promised a storm was about to break over the 7 hills and across the entire world. Then it happened. Not with a grand procession or a public address, it came with the quiet, deliberate act of a seal being broken. On the morning of June 21st, 2025, a document was distributed to the prefects of the Roman Curia. Its title, Misericordia et Veritas, Mercy and Truth. The moment the document was seen, the whispers in the Vatican corridors ceased entirely, replaced by a stunned, reverent silence. The decree was read not from a balcony to the cheering masses, but in the quiet, solemn offices where the daily business of the Church is conducted. As each official read the opening lines, a visible shock registered on their faces. The language was not the dense, legalistic prose of a typical canonical document. It was direct, clear, and filled with a sorrowful authority. The words spoke of a shepherd tending his flock, of a judge rendering a necessary, though painful, verdict. Pope Leo XIV had chosen to speak through the written word first, letting the power of his decision settle before the world could react. The decree was his voice, made permanent on the page. As the news began to leak from the Vatican walls, it did so not as a torrent, but as a slow, inexorable tide. The decree was real. Its contents were staggering. The stillness was broken by the ringing of phones and the frantic typing of keyboards around the globe. Misericordia et Veritas was now the property of the world, a declaration that would force every Catholic to confront the heart of their faith. The papal bull, Misericordia et Veritas, began with paternal love. It addressed the Church with grace and apostolic blessing. But the tone quickly shifted. Pope Leo XIV wrote of a grave sickness in the body of Christ, a fortress mentality replacing the gospel. The words were chosen with surgical precision, filled with sadness. The decree stated the highest law of the Church is the salvation of souls. Mercy must be its very heart. Truth without mercy is cruelty, and mercy without truth is a hollow sentiment. Then came the thunderclap. The names of 5 cardinals were listed. Pope Leo XIV declared they were removed from the dignity of the cardinalate, stripped of all authority. The decree ended with a plea for unity and prayer. The Pope asked the Church to pray for him and for the men he had disciplined, brothers in need of support. The decree was an act of immense power, framed in humility and service. The reasons for this unprecedented act were laid bare in the text of the decree. The Pope did not accuse the men of heresy or personal scandal. The charge was more subtle, doctrinal rigidity. He wrote of how sacred truths, meant to be a source of light and hope, had been turned into heavy stones to be thrown at the wounded and the searching. The Pope argued that these cardinals had built walls where the gospel demanded bridges. The decree spoke of a failure of mercy, a leadership style that prioritized rules over people. The Pope lamented a coldness that had crept into the heart of their ministry. Their failure was not in what they believed, but in how they lived that belief. He was addressing the sense that the Church had, in some quarters, become unwelcoming and judgmental. The charge of doctrinal rigidity suggested a love of ideas more than a love of people, a betrayal of the pastoral mission at the heart of the priesthood. This was a new kind of accountability, a spiritual failure, a failure of the heart. The Pope was judging them on their capacity for compassion. They had guarded the letter of the law so fiercely that they had extinguished its spirit. Such a decisive act by a pope is extraordinarily rare in the modern history of the Church. In the tumultuous centuries of the early and medieval Church, popes occasionally acted with such authority, deposing bishops or excommunicating princes. A more recent example, the suppression of the Jesuit order by Pope Clement XIV in 1773. Pope Leo XIV's decree, in stark contrast, is an internal matter, an assertion of internal discipline. The public nature of Pope Leo's decree is what sets it apart. He issued a unilateral declaration, making the reasons for his actions a teaching moment for the entire Church. This act is both a shocking rupture and a powerful echo from the Church's deep past. The reaction from the global Church was immediate and seismic. In many parts of the world, especially in the global South and among progressive Catholic groups, the news was met with celebration. Bishops who had long felt stifled by a rigid central authority sent messages of support to Rome. Lay people who had felt alienated by the Church's stern tone flooded social media with messages of hope. Support groups for divorced Catholics, LGBTQ+ individuals and others who have often felt marginalized expressed a sense of cautious optimism. For them, the decree was not an act of division, but an act of healing. However, the opposition was equally swift and vocal. From dioceses known for their traditionalist stance, there came cries of confusion and betrayal. They saw the Pope's action as a dangerous overreach of papal power, an attack on the very doctrinal foundations of the faith. They feared it would create confusion among the faithful and embolden those who wished to dilute Church teaching. This group also took to the media, warning of a coming schism. The Church, in a single day, was revealed in its stark division. The Pope's decree had not created this division, but it had thrown it into the harsh, unforgiving light of day. In the midst of this global chorus of praise and protest, one voice was conspicuously silent. Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle of the Philippines, a leading figure of the Church's progressive wing, said nothing. As requests for comments poured in, his office replied, "The Cardinal is in a period of prayer and reflection." This silence was not an absence of opinion. It was a statement in itself. Cardinal Tagle is known for his warmth, humility, and pastoral heart, the very qualities the Pope seemed to be championing. His decision to remain silent was mysterious and deeply meaningful. It was the silence of a man who understands the gravity of the moment. By not speaking, he avoided fanning the flames of either side. His silence was a shepherd's silence, a watchful quiet that surveys the entire flock before deciding on the wisest path forward. Most importantly, Cardinal Tagle's silence was a call to a deeper response. His quietude was a powerful counter-narrative to the noise of the media. The 5 empty red hats serve as a powerful and unsettling symbol. The absence of these hats in the College of Cardinals speaks a new language, a visible, tangible representation of a shift in power and priority. It symbolizes the end of an era, the closing of a chapter in the Church's long story. These empty seats or a message office is not a permanent entitlement, but a sacred trust. Pope Leo XIV has made it clear that this trust can be revoked. The empty hats are a constant reminder that doctrinal purity without a compassionate heart is no longer enough. They symbolize a Church being actively pruned, reshaped by its gardener. The vacancies also represent an opportunity, spaces waiting to be filled. The world now watches to see who Pope Leo XIV will choose to elevate. The empty red hats are the most potent sign that the institution will not be the same. Has Pope Leo XIV, with a single stroke of his pen, initiated a new reformation, or has he sown the seeds of a catastrophic schism? This decree is not an endpoint, it is a beginning. The Pope has chosen his path, prioritizing the pastoral over the political mercy over rigid law. He has forced a moment of crisis, a moment of judgment and decision for every member of the Church. The future of the Church now depends on how it responds to this prophetic disruptive act. If the faithful and their leaders can embrace the spirit of the decree, this could be the dawn of a new, more vibrant era. However, the path forward is fraught with peril. The forces of reaction are strong. The unity of the Church, so precious and so fragile, is being tested by fire. In the end, Pope Leo XIV has placed a profound question before the world. What is the true nature of the Church? The awe-inspiring, terrifying and glorious consequences of that conviction are now beginning to unfold before our very eyes. Please subscribe to our channel History Documentary Hub for more insightful videos and intriguing content.